My wife cheated with her boss, stealing $250, $0 from our savings to buy a luxury house with him. And now she's already divorced him and is claiming full ownership. Help, I'm about to lose everything over her lies. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video, using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be sitting here writing about something so messed up, but here I am. My wife, Lisa, always seemed perfect, beautiful, smart, the kind of woman everyone admired. We'd been married for 7 years, and honestly, I thought we had a good life. Or at least I did. But everything started to fall apart in ways I never saw coming, and it all hit me like a freight train when I stumbled onto her secret. It all began about a month ago. I noticed she was acting weird, secretive with her phone, sneaking around, deleting messages. At first, I thought she was just stressed at work or maybe hiding something innocent like a surprise. But then I caught her in a lie. She told me she was working late one night, but her phone timestamp said otherwise. I looked over her shoulder, and there it was, a message from some guy named Mark calling her babe, saying he missed her. That was the first real sign that something was wrong. I didn't jump to conclusions right away. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just a flirtation or some harmless thing. But then I started noticing more. Her phone bills spiked with unfamiliar numbers, and she was always hiding her screen when I was near. She'd get defensive if I asked about it, accusing me of being paranoid or trust issues. That's when I started to feel the cold pit in my stomach. Something was definitely off. Then came the real shocker. One day I was cleaning out her purse, something I normally wouldn't do, but I was just curious, and I found a receipt from a hotel downtown. It was a last-minute booking, paid in cash, and it was for 2 people. I looked closer. The name on the reservation was Lisa and Mark, and the date was just a week ago. My heart sank. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe she'd actually do something so blatant, so reckless. I confronted her that night. I asked her outright if she was cheating on me. Her face went pale, but she immediately started with her usual lies. "You're crazy," she snapped. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're just jealous because I work hard and I deserve a little fun." That's when she threw in the classic line, "You're overreacting. It's just sex and it doesn't mean anything." But I knew better. I saw the way she looked at Mark in those messages, like she was in love with him, not just having some meaningless fling. The worst part is I started to question everything. Our entire life together felt like a lie. We had joint accounts, savings, plans for a house. Everything was built on a lie. And the money, I found out she'd been funneling thousands into her secret account. When I finally checked the bank statements, it was like a bomb went off. She stolen close to $250, $0 from our savings, our future, our kids' college fund, everything. She used it to buy a luxury house. With Mark of all people, I couldn't even breathe when I saw that. How could she do this? And then came the most brutal part. She told me she was leaving me, said she didn't love me anymore, that I was holding her back. She claimed she'd turned her life around and was finally happy with her new house, her new man, her new life. She even had the nerve to say I was the one who was controlling, that I was paranoid and insecure. I couldn't believe the audacity. She's been lying to me for months, maybe longer, and now she's trying to claim she's the victim. I feel like I've been punched in the stomach every day since. I'm angry, betrayed, heartbroken. I trusted her with everything. How could she do this? How could she steal our life savings, lie about everything, and then just walk away claiming she's the victim? I don't even know who she is anymore. All I know is I can't let her get away with it. I need to figure out what to do next, how to fight back, and most importantly, how to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. After I found out about the money, everything changed. I'd always been the kind of guy who believed in honesty, in sticking things out, but now I felt like I'd been punched in the face 100 times over. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about the fact that she'd stolen from us, from our future. I kept replaying everything in my head. How she'd lied about her work hours, how she'd been so cold and distant, and then how she suddenly wanted a divorce, claiming she was done with the whole thing. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with more evidence. I waited until she was home one evening and I sat her down in the living room. I was calm, but inside I was boiling with rage. I laid out everything I'd uncovered: the hotel receipt, the bank statements, the secret account, the stolen savings. Her face twisted into a sneer and she rolled her eyes like I was just some obsessed lunatic. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I found someone better than you. Mark is successful, he treats me like a queen, and he gives me what I want. You're just insecure and controlling." Her voice was venomous. She lied so easily, like she'd rehearsed it. "You don't own me, I can do whatever I want. I've worked hard for this new life and I don't need you dragging me down." I couldn't believe her. I felt the blood rush to my head. "You stole from us," I said through clenched teeth. $250, $0, Lisa. Our savings, our future, everything. You lied, you cheated, and now you're claiming you're the victim." She scoffed and looked at me like I was some kind of idiot. "It's none of your business. That money was mine anyway. I earned it and I can do whatever I want with it. You're just bitter because I don't want to be married to a loser like you anymore." That was when I realized I had to do something more than just confront her. I had to act. I couldn't let her walk away with everything, not after what she'd done. I started researching, digging into her financials more, trying to find out exactly what she'd done with the money. I needed proof, something concrete to fight her in court. If it came to that. One night I found her plans for the house she bought with Mark. It was a mansion, a huge place with all the luxury you could imagine. I also discovered that she'd taken out a second mortgage on our house, claiming it was for renovations, but in reality she'd used it to cover part of the down payment. She lied to me about everything. All those years I worked hard, saved every penny, and she was secretly siphoning money away, spending it on her new life with her lover. I started to feel a mix of anger and despair. How could she do this? How could she betray me so completely, destroy everything we built together? I thought about all the times I'd trusted her, all the nights I stayed up worrying about bills in the future, and now I realized she'd been planning her escape all along. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and honestly a little broken. I knew I couldn't let her get away with it, though. I had to fight back for myself, for what was left of our life. I began to gather all the evidence, document everything. I contacted a lawyer, started thinking about how to get my money back and what steps I needed to take to protect what was mine. But the emotional toll was heavy. Every time I saw her, I felt this burning mix of anger and sadness. I'd loved her once, but now I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a thief, and someone who threw away everything we had for a quick thrill and a fancy house. And yet, beneath all that rage, there was this tiny voice telling me I had to be smart. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but it wouldn't bring back what I lost. I had to think bigger. I had to come up with a plan that would make her pay, not just financially, but emotionally and legally. I had to make her understand that she couldn't just walk away and pretend it never happened. That's when I started planning my next move. The more I dug into her financials, the more I realized just how deep her lies went. She'd been planning this for months, if not longer. That luxury house she bought with Mark, paid for mostly with the stolen savings. The second mortgage on our old place. She'd hidden the paperwork, but I found it in her files after a long night of searching through her emails and documents. It was clear she'd been orchestrating her escape for a while, carefully covering her tracks. I couldn't just sit there and let her walk away with everything: my money, my life, my future. I started talking to a lawyer the very next day. I explained everything, handed over all the evidence I'd gathered, and asked what my options were. The lawyer was straightforward. We could file for a legal separation, or even a full-blown divorce, and fight to get the money back through the courts. But more than that, I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, both financially and emotionally. While all this was happening, she kept up her act of being the innocent victim. She'd call me bitter, accuse me of being a control freak, and say I was just jealous of her new life. She'd even cry sometimes, claiming she was just trying to find her happiness. But I saw through it. I knew she was lying, that she'd already made her choice. The house with Mark, the money she'd stolen. The lies she told me every day. It was all part of her plan to run away from the life she hated. One night I decided I had to confront her again, face to face. I told her I knew everything about the money, the affair, the lies. Her reaction was classic. She got defensive, started shouting, and then she turned cold. "You're just a jealous, insecure loser," she spat. "You think you're entitled to everything. Well, I don't owe you anything anymore. I'm done with this marriage and I'm done with you." That's when she told me she was already divorced from Mark, that she'd cut him loose because she wanted to focus on her new life. I couldn't believe her audacity. The thing is, I wasn't just angry, I was devastated. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. I'd loved her, trusted her, built a life with her. And she'd been lying, stealing, and cheating behind my back the whole time. It's hard to describe the emptiness I felt when she told me she was leaving me for good. I kept thinking about all the nights I'd worried about bills, about our future, about giving our kids a good life. And now, it was all slipping away because of her greed and selfishness. I started to realize that revenge wasn't just about getting my money back. It was about making her face the reality of what she'd done. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to understand that she couldn't just walk away and pretend it never happened. I wanted her to see that her lies had consequences. That's when I decided I'd fight her in court, push for full accountability, and make sure she paid for her actions, not just financially but emotionally too. In the meantime, I made sure to document everything. All the emails, bank statements, receipts, messages, every piece of evidence that proved her deceit. I knew the legal battle would take time, but I was determined. I couldn't let her get away with stealing our savings, ruining our marriage, and then just walking off into her new life. It hurt so much, but I knew I had to be strong. For myself, for what little dignity I had left, I would fight this. And I'd make sure she couldn't keep hiding behind her lies forever. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, sleepless nights, and a flood of conflicting emotions. I had the evidence I needed, but I also knew that confronting her legally would open up a whole new can of worms. Still, I couldn't sit around and do nothing while she built her new life on my stolen savings and my trust. I had to act. I filed for an emergency injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring the house she bought with Mark. That was one of the hardest moments. I felt like I was finally taking control, but it also made everything real. She wasn't just the woman I loved anymore. She was now the person actively trying to take everything from me. I remember the moment I pressed submit on that court document, my hands trembling, heart pounding. It was the first real step toward fighting back. Her reaction was classic. She called me non-stop, leaving angry voicemails accusing me of trying to ruin her happiness. She told me I was just bitter, jealous, and insecure. She claimed I was trying to trap her, to control her, that she deserved her happiness after everything she'd been through. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd lied about everything, her affair, the money, her plans. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her financial trail, trying to find where the rest of the money had gone. I discovered she'd been funneling small amounts into a hidden account, trying to cover her tracks. But I found it. I had a private investigator help me, and within days, we traced the money from the savings account directly into her new house's mortgage, her new car, and even a few luxury vacations she'd taken with Mark. That was the moment I realized she'd been living a lie for months, maybe years. One particularly shocking discovery was her attempt to transfer ownership of the house. She'd already signed the papers to make herself the sole owner, claiming she bought it with her own money. But I had the documents and I showed my lawyer. We prepared to challenge that, arguing she'd committed fraud and theft. The legal process was moving fast now. I could see that she was starting to panic, calling me again with her usual venom, trying to convince me she was the victim. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I remember feeling a strange mixture of rage and heartbreak. Rage because she'd stolen from us, broken the vows we made, and shattered my trust. Heartbreak because I still loved her, or at least I thought I did, and now I saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who would do anything for money and convenience. I think that's what hurt the most, realizing how much of my life had been a lie. I began to prepare myself mentally for the fight ahead. I knew I'd have to go to court, present all the evidence, and seek justice. But more than that, I needed to find a way to rebuild myself after this. I started reaching out to friends and family trying to find some support. It was hard to admit I'd been so blind, so trusting, and now I was left with nothing but questions and heartbreak. Still, I was determined not to let her win, not to let her walk away with everything she'd stolen, emotionally, financially, and legally. I had to stand my ground no matter how much it hurt. The court dates came faster than I expected. I was nervous, but I knew I had to be strong. All the evidence I had gathered, the bank statements, the emails, the receipts, was ready. I hired a good lawyer who specialized in financial fraud and divorce cases, and we prepared to fight for what was legally mine. The day of the hearing, I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. She showed up, looking confident, but I could see the flicker of fear behind her eyes. The judge listened carefully as I laid out everything: how she had secretly siphoned off our savings, bought a house with Mark, lied about the mortgage, and tried to claim full ownership of the house she had stolen from us. My lawyer presented the evidence, and her lawyer tried to spin it, claiming I was just bitter and jealous. But the judge saw through her lies. It was clear she'd committed fraud, and her attempts to hide her assets were exposed. During the proceedings, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief because I was finally fighting back, standing up for myself after months of heartbreak. Anger because I knew she'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. I watched her try to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. When the judge finally ruled in our favor, declaring that she owed me a significant amount of money and that the house was to be held in joint ownership until the matter was settled, I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was a start. That day, she lost her grip on her new life. The court also ordered her to pay back the stolen money, plus interest. I knew it wouldn't be easy to recover, but I was determined. I wasn't going to let her walk away clean after everything she'd done. The judge's decision was a blow to her ego, and I saw the anger in her eyes as she stormed out of the courtroom. In the aftermath, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I filed for divorce, knowing I couldn't stay married to someone who had betrayed me so completely. I started the process of rebuilding my life, piece by piece. I changed the locks, moved out of the house, and began to focus on my mental health. I saw a therapist, talked to friends, and tried to process the pain. I realized that I'd been blind for a long time, but now I was finally seeing the truth. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and some people will do anything for money and comfort. I also learned that fighting back, no matter how hard it is, can bring some justice. I don't know how I'll recover completely, but I do know I'll come out stronger. My biggest advice to anyone in a similar situation: don't stay quiet. Fight for what's yours. Don't let betrayal define you. And most importantly, learn to trust your instincts, because if something feels wrong, it probably is. Now that everything's settled, or at least as settled as it can be, I find myself reflecting on how much I've changed. I used to believe in fairy tale endings, in the idea that love could conquer all. But this experience shattered that myth for me. I learned that some people are willing to sell out everything: trust, loyalty, even morals, for money and quick gratification. That betrayal cut deep, but it also forced me to grow, to see things clearly for the first time. Losing my marriage, my savings, and my sense of security hurt more than I can say. It's like waking up from a nightmare and realizing the world is a much darker place than I thought. But I also realized I have a choice to let this define me or to use it as a lesson. I've chosen to pick myself up, rebuild what I can, and move forward. The scars will stay, but they serve as a reminder that I survived, that I fought for what was right. I've become more cautious about who I trust, more aware of the red flags I once ignored. I've also become more determined to protect myself and those I care about. The pain of betrayal is a terrible thing, but it's also a catalyst for change. It's made me stronger, more resilient, and more aware of my own worth. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, don't lose hope. Yes, it hurts like hell and the betrayal feels unbearable at first, but you have the power to fight back, to reclaim what's yours, and to heal. It's not easy and it might take time, but I promise you, there's life after betrayal. Sometimes the worst pain can lead to the greatest growth. And in the end, you'll come out on the other side, wiser and more prepared for whatever life throws at you.